Welcome to the Healers Café, conversations on health and healing with Dr. Manon.
So welcome to the Healers Café. And today I have with me Zahara Jade. She is the founder of the Truth Catalyst. It's a somatic awakening, or she is a somatic awakening coach who has supported hundreds of clients around the world on their journey to awaken from trauma and lead authentic, purpose-fueled, wildly successful lives. And she helps her clients overcome lifetimes of anxiety, depression, eradicate addictions, reduce cycles of chronic pain, dysfunctional relationship patterns, and all of that. And she's mixed things from the Far East and also her master's in clinical psychology to support her trauma-informed, intuitive meets research-based approach to healing where other methods have failed her clients. So, well, welcome and welcome to these times. I think it doesn't matter what we do, we're here at this point, you know. So, well, let's start a little journey. What got you, first of all, interested in trauma, I don't know if trauma is the thing that got you interested, but in the field of research.
Yeah, that's a great question. It seemed that my entire life was directed on this course from the time I was very young. I got into a clinical psychology PhD program from college. So I didn't go to a master's degree first, which is what most people do, right? So I was in a 5-year program and there were only 6 people accepted into my program that year. It was highly competitive and it was a wild thing to do, pretty crazy. I was pretty determined to become a clinical psychologist right off the bat. But the truth is I didn't know who I was back then. I was really young and so chronically ill, so steeped in my own trauma. I had no clue what was actually inside of me. I didn't know my voice. I didn't know how to connect with who I was. So I was just following the motions, going through life, doing what I thought was right. But there were so many moments that I had to make really challenging and nearly life-ending decisions. It felt like at the time, my autoimmune disease, of course, got so bad during grad school. After I defended my master's, I was seeing clients at the time. I was doing research, I was teaching. I had just defended my master's and I got so sick. I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. I was in my apartment by myself. And I realized I couldn't see clients in that state. What was I doing, right? Yeah. It wasn't functional. So I decided to take a sabbatical from grad school. And that just kind of changed the course of everything I was doing. After I got my master's, I just kind of left it there and just decided I needed to heal. Mm-hmm. And that led me on the course that I'm on today.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, I would think, many people think psychology is to help people heal. And it is, right? On some level.
On some level, right?
But it's, it gives you some background, some, but it's there's nothing like the experience of your own healing.
When you heal deep layers of trauma and you go through that experience over years and really decades, and you're able to hold deep pain, sit with your own deep pain for months, for years, and be with it and be okay with it, you can sit with other people's deep pain and be completely okay and allow them to be with their deep pain. Right? There's something really powerful with that.
And that's not really what you were taught.
Well, you can't be taught that in grad school, right? But also when you're very young, let me speak for myself.
Yeah.
As a young adult in my early 20s, I was still psychologically manipulated and abused. And so I couldn't see my own patterns. I didn't understand what had happened to me throughout my childhood. So I hadn't healed my own abuse. And that really prevented me from doing I am light years ahead of where I was 20 years ago. And now I'm able to see other people's patterns. I'm able to see where they're stuck. I couldn't do that kind of work back then. Ever.
Yeah. Well, that's why they say you have to heal the healer, no matter what, right? It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what type of work you do. To really connect, I think we have to be who we are.
Yeah, that. We have to be who we are. Yeah.
So let's jump to the current traumas that are happening on all these levels, and any insights that you have from your work, your experience. I'm putting you on the spot, but life puts us on the spot. So,
well, one thing I can touch upon during the pandemic last year, I was speaking quite a bit about collective trauma.
Yes.
Right? Like a lot of people were sitting still and they were just sitting with themselves, and stuff they didn't even know was a problem for them started surfacing. Their individual trauma started coming up, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, this is my stuff. This is my crap. What do I do with it? What is this? Because what people don't realize, like there are different extremes of trauma. We use this word, people are becoming more trauma informed, but trauma is really just the body's reaction to an event that the body perceives, the mind subconscious perceives as life-threatening, right? So when the fight or flight system slips into
activation,
right, dysregulation, sometimes people are aware of it, sometimes they're just completely unaware. And with collective trauma, a lot of people weren't aware that there was subtle energy circulating around the globe, but it might have been affecting them. Maybe they were more irritable, they were sleepless, maybe a little bit more agitated, angry. They didn't realize that actually, like the pandemic on the whole was maybe affecting them, even though they weren't directly in touch with people who were sick, or they were, in whatever way. Like collective trauma is sort of like this blanket that covers everything. And you are affected by it regardless of your distance to the trauma.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And there's different parts of what we've witnessed in the last 2 years now that are absolute trauma triggers.
Right. I mean, the pandemic is one piece of what you can call collective trauma. There are so many things coming up in society that are traumatic for everybody.
Yeah. So how do you explain, I'm thinking if this is a good question, how do you explain people who don't seem to understand or see other people's traumas, like that they don't see what seems to be going on? They're so focused just on, either in Canada it's doing the right thing, whatever that is, but that they're not seeing what's actually happening to the fabric of our society, to the freedom to choose what goes in your body or not, or the fact that people are losing their jobs, that, you know, we're on the verge here of losing our front line. I think it's the same in the States, you know, workers, that so many people are being coerced. And, you know, and I can hear people speaking in lineups, you know, sort of going, well, good for them. They deserve it. And this complete disconnect in humanity, right? And yeah.
Well, I think it's really hard to generalize first. And I think that's where what you're talking about is what's happening. People are generalizing and they're jumping on this like train of wanting to, I was watching this documentary recently just about the history of, I forget how it's called, but the digital age has created these cultures of tribes where people are just fighting each other. And I personally I'm very blessed because the way I grew up, I was in a household where I had parents who were very political and I wanted nothing to do with it. But I actually truly don't want anything to do with it. And I lived in Asia for quite a while and it was such a blessing. It's quite shocking for me to live in the US now because it's
all
just
divide on every front, right?
Well, I was living in Asia before this kind of got out of control, and now I live here, and I'm looking forward to spending more time outside of the US because people's vulnerabilities and traumas are being taken advantage of is what I see. And, you know, I also find that when people become so utterly focused externally on issues that actually maybe are irrelevant or have nothing to do with self-love and healing their inner wounds, right? That could actually bring them so much further to become shining examples of who they truly want to be in life. Mm-hmm. That can actually send ripple effects into their community, into the world. And like, I'm not just talking about community individuals, I'm talking about like, you know, all the way up the chain. Couldn't we create a better world that way?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think it's like, it's really, to me, it's about how do you want to stand in all of this chaos, this divide, I think manipulation, at least from the powers that can control, for example, media, so that there isn't really free speech. You've got to look at like, well, how do you get to, you know, it's like, I can see in me what it triggers, you know, I can see, oh, it triggers like, I want to get to the bottom of it. What is the truth? And, you know, and you will, I mean, I will go down that journey, but in the end, it's how am I being with all of this? And how am I, you know, how am I connecting with others? And, you know, am I full of fear, or am I full of, do I see even hope or light? You know, these are all things that are, you've got to find it within. And then, you know, yes, we can create parallel realities or parallel societies, I suppose, you know. You surround yourself with, I think, I don't know if it's like-minded people. I think it's more, I don't know what, there's so many divides that it's hard to find the peace when you don't really want to be in a division. Like, you know, it.
You know, I love how you put that, you know, standing still in the middle of the chaos. And I wasn't actually recommending like we create alternative societies, but when I lived overseas, there are just these beautiful, absolutely loving, accepting, warming, supportive communities of people. And what you touched upon was the fear, and people are being, taken advantage of and manipulated by their fear-based emotions. And it's only those of us who are just awake enough to recognize that, to just say, no, thank you. I'm going to do me. I'm going to focus on me, and anything that's not supportive of living in a way that's aligned with how I feel best in the world. It's just not energy that is necessary.
Yeah. So you think the advantage of anyone who's become conscious through their traumas, which is to me a big part of, and I don't like the word awakening because it just feels like a funny word to me, but I don't know what else to say. But I think it's just becoming conscious, becoming aware, basically, of patterns, of what's happening, of relationships on all levels, whether it's your relationship to nature, to yourself, to your partners, to your family, to all of that, to society. I think that's the gift of this time is if you haven't had the ability yet to deal with the traumas that you may have, they will surface.
Hi, I'm Dr. Manon Bolliger, and I wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching these podcasts. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Also, feel free to leave comments and like it. This way, more people get to find out about this work and about other choices for health. So I think it's really important that we all share this information. I have a free gift to you. It's a 7-sequence email that has tips for every day, and it's a little insight about how to live your life when it comes to health. And it's very much built on how I managed to overcome stage 4 cancer and what it took. So I would love you to have this, and thank you once again for listening to these podcasts.
Yeah. Now, and to notice that and just make friends with yourself and just, not fight this and just, go ahead and go, wow, okay, this is the time now for me to focus on this, to just go deeper on this and become exactly who you are. I mean, I love when I looked on your website, you're very clear about the path of being who we truly are, as if that is absolutely who we're meant to be. And then I'm thinking, well, who else could we have been if that isn't the path, right? So it's bound to be.
Yeah. But people who have experienced trauma and abuse, most of them are just trapped in other people's beliefs, right? Other people's patterns, and they actually don't even realize it.
Because they don't realize it,
yeah. And then they get caught in other external beliefs and disinformation, right? Just the pattern continues.
Yeah. It's a big psyop.
Yeah.
It really is. It's an interesting, it's been, anyway, if it wasn't for the health piece of it all, if I saw it as a, some people say it's a psychological warfare, and I'm like, okay, I could see that. I understand that perspective of reality, looking at it like that, but the costs to our health, not just from the fear, because we all know that if you're in perpetual fear, your nervous system just doesn't fire as it should. We're in fight and flight on a rather continual basis. And everything that's coming in is going to be judged or processed through a heightened defense positioning, right? So, which is also the state in which you're the most manipulatable, right? It's easy when you're in that state to do anything to get out of fear. And so it's a very compromising psychological state to be in on a perpetual basis, you know? Yeah. So anyway, okay, well, let's go back to, or I don't know, do you have more to share on what people can do, or what the type of work you do, because you do somatic work. What do you incorporate that maybe you could share on this if people are either caught in this, but open enough to listen to a podcast like this? That could help.
So the work that I do, typically I work with people who are looking to heal, and a lot of times they don't know that they've suffered trauma necessarily. I work with people who suffer from chronic illnesses. Some of my clients have like 5 to 10 different autoimmune diseases, things like that, or they have chronic pain, depression, anxiety, addiction issues. I've worked with people who are on the edge of suicide, like pretty severe issues, have had severe abuse throughout their lives, that kind of stuff. So it's I mean, sometimes some of the stuff going on in society might come up, but that's not usually like my specialty or anything. It inevitably, you know, might be mentioned. And the work that I do is we focus on helping them calm their systems, regulate, and I give them a ton of resources to help them do that from both my clinical psych background, but also my somatic work, other tools that I have. And really the magic in my work are my somatic journeys, which is my proprietary method that I've cultivated throughout all of these decades. And that's when I help them work with the mind and the body, and I take them inwards and we find where the trauma is and we heal it without getting into too many details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So have you found that it's necessary to know everything about the trauma? Like I'm going to give you an example, like in the body work that I do, that I use for trauma, often people have no idea what happened. And then it's as if the body holds the unconscious memories.
Right.
And if the environment is safe and the relationship is there, and, you know, it doesn't just like that, it takes a few things to be in place, but then it will come up either in images, which is how the subconscious tends to work, or metaphors, if you stretch it out a little bit, or sometimes just in a rush of an emotion, provided you haven't put a whole story to it. So it's sometimes very raw, right? So yeah, and sometimes even the voice changes to the age or to the time, like, so, and this is all doing what looks like a basic silly work. I mean, you know, so I call it silly because it's so easy and gentle, and, you know, but so at that point, the body expresses. And so my question to you is, so it's got an expression, it's come out, it's come to light. What more has to happen in your mind to release, let go, to move on from there?
Truly, it depends on the client and it depends on the moment, and everybody's different. It depends on, and even with each client, it depends on where we are in the work. And it's every single session is very intuitive where we go next.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it depends on what comes up next.
I'm just trying to figure out a way of letting people know a little bit more how this works. Because of course that's the right, it's not the right answer, it's the truth.
It's just that's so real, right? Like it's so hard to describe to potential clients because until you're in the moment, you can't possibly know what's going to come next because they don't know. Like you said, they may not even know what trauma is there, or they've forgotten. And
But do you feel that bringing to consciousness what has happened is part of the journey, or a necessary part of the journey, or not necessarily?
I don't try necessarily to do that. The work that I do is all very dependent on where the client's body takes them. So whatever comes up is where we go.
Right.
And I trust, and I've seen that they are guided where their subconscious is ready to take them.
Right. Okay. So you might achieve the end result of them finding themselves again and releasing all of that simply by continuing a somatic journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No matter how much is opened, how much they remember, like that's not relevant actually.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's what I think you've answered it. I didn't ask it quite in the way. I think that was the answer I was looking for. I mean, looking for to understand what you felt about that. So that they don't have to know, because that's a question I get asked so many times. You know, do I need to know everything to heal? And no, you don't. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of clients are fearful, right?
Well, of course. They're fearful, but also I think there's a misconception out there that you will uncover all these, horrible things. And I haven't found that to be true. Some people do. But it's as if the body shares only what it can handle when it's in the healing direction. Yeah. So you concur with that experience? Yeah. Interesting.
Precisely. Yeah.
That's
my experience. Yeah.
So not to be afraid of the process.
If they are afraid, it's more like working with that fear.
Right. Yeah. And you're because you mentioned you had all these chronic diseases, and
I have one, but I've worked with clients who have multiple.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you through that journey yourself? Has your body come to terms with it, or and you don't have to answer, I'm asking a very personal question, but
that's such an interesting question, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what through that journey means or looks like. What I can say is it doesn't affect me on a regular basis. I also have to still be very mindful and recognize and know my triggers. I've learned in the past few years that actually exercise can be a trigger for my disease, which is not something I ever expected, and definitely really bummed me out because I used to love pretty high intensity workouts, whether it was high intensity yoga or running or whatever it was. And I realized that was causing flare-ups of my disease. And, the process is about awareness and acceptance of what is. Yeah. And I think, those are the hardest steps for people. And if I'm able to do those things and then adjust and mediate appropriately, I can get better.
But I think that's exactly the point. It's the awareness and not coping, because coping is, I don't like the word. It has this sort of small restrictive idea that nothing can ever change or go, which I don't think that is the case, because I have certainly seen so-called chronic incurable diseases completely disappear with no apparent managing afterwards, because something else shifted. So, I don't see the limitations in healing personally. I also see that the awareness of when you're dancing with your body's symptomatology and you're aware, oh, this is a trigger, all that, you're in the healing dance. You're living it anyways. Yeah.
You said it. Yeah.
So then there's no end result there. That is the moment, that is the how that you're in it. Right. And so I think there's a lot of comfort in that too, because we're in a society where we think, oh, it's the end goal. It's always the end goal. And it's like, wait a minute here.
Where's my trophy?
Exactly. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, we have, we're almost there. I just feel, I feel like we've gone a little bit everywhere, but that's okay. That's what conversations are, right? Sometimes. Is there anything that you would like to share or cover on any level that you believe that, because my audience is practitioners, and also I have public people that are just listening, because I believe too that everyone needs to be fully conscious and informed of all kinds of therapies and what's out there in the world and possibilities, so that we don't live in this limited world.
That's a great question. I need a good answer for that. I don't know that I have anything specific. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. So how could people find out more about you? Or I didn't get through all of your website. Do you have a book, or do you have something that people can find out more if what you're saying they just resonate with, and you have to be doing things on not online only, right? It's in person too, right?
Actually, I do work virtually. So I work with my clients over Zoom, and in early 2022, I'm not sure exactly what month, I'll be releasing a 3-month course.
Right.
Self-study course. And very soon after that, I'll be releasing a group course. I'm really excited about those.
Oh, that's exciting.
I've been working on those all year. So that's exciting. But
exciting.
Anybody who's interested in my work can find out about me through my website, thetruthcatalyst.com, or Instagram @truthcatalyst.
It's a great name.
Thank you.
Okay, well, good. I look forward to finding out more when your course comes out, and I'd love to have a follow-up when you actually launch it.
Okay.
Because my trajectory, so I was one-on-one, then I stopped that, and I've been doing group coaching, and there's something about the dynamic of a group that is significantly more powerful than one-to-one. And honestly, I've been one-to-one for 30 years, so I have a total bias for one-to-one, and yet I'm blown away at the possibility and how we really work together as people. It's incredible. It's so beautiful to witness.
Wow. If you're open to it, I'd love to chat with you more about that some other time.
Sure.
Or email with you about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, thank you for showing up on this show and reaching the people that need to hear the message.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café with Dr. Manon. For more information, go to drmanonbolliger.com.